He's just too good. Alexander Volkanovski TKOs Yair Rodriguez. He becomes the first fighter in UFC history to defeat Yair with strikes. And he kept the fight so simple too. The only issues he had was only in the third round when it came to the striking for a little bit before he found the timing. And that's what you're going to get when you're going up against such an unorthodox fighter. Even Volk admitted that Yair's striking technique even put a little bit of fear in him during preparation for this fight. So it took him a bit of time in order to figure things out and then finally find that right hook that rocked Yair Rodriguez. It had a lot to do with distance as well, because Volkanovski had a bit of time to find his comfortable distance in the fight. It took him until the third round once he landed his first jab. The first jab he landed was in the third round, and from there, he started to figure things out and knew the correct distance or where to place his right hook. But the thing that we all questioned was, how was Volkanovski going to deal with the kicking range of Yair Rodriguez? What was he going to do from the outside? Well, we found something here. Volk constantly switched stances. From far range, he was switching from orthodox to southpaw to orthodox to southpaw, constantly switching to take off the targets of Yair in those small split seconds where Yair is trying to figure out what angle he wants to kick at. It allows Volkanovski to pressure him every single time Yair has to think about which angle he needs to kick. So before Yair knows it, he's already backed up so far, and all Volk is doing is switching stances at him. The first and second rounds pretty much went exactly how everyone thought it was probably going to go. Volkanovski was going to take the fight to the ground, use his wrestling, land big ground and pound shots, and just win through the top position. He was probably going to stay in full guard for the most of it, which proved to be true because he's so comfortable stacking on top of you and landing big shots. His ground and pound is some of the best in the UFC right now. So powerful, and what's really interesting is he's so short, he can stand up while he's locked in your guard. He is able to stand inside of Yair's long legs. When you have a closed guard on someone, a lot of the times it stops them from standing up above you. But Volk's legs are so short, he can literally stand up above you while he's in your locked full guard and throw punches at you. That is kind of crazy. And the first time he got Yair to the ground was at the same time Volk was throwing an inside leg kick. From the opposite stance, Yair tried to hit him to the body with his own kick. But because Volk threw the leg kick at the same time, it showed that Yair did not expect that, and his leg landed toward the hip, and Volk was able to grab onto it, taking him to the ground. That's where Volk showed his strength. The man is so strong. He was lifting Yair into the fence inch by inch. He knew that was the best place he wants to be to trap his opponent up against the fence by standing above them, throwing ground and pound. But Yair was able to get out of this much later into the round using Volk's momentum against him. As Volkanovski's throwing his big left hook, Yair moves him with his legs the same direction, getting him off balance, so now Yair has all this space to stand up. And the other takedowns came so easy. When Volk had his grip on Yair, it was very hard for Yair to get out of it. The strength difference between the two was very vast, and I think it's going to be the same for most of Volk's opponents. I think maybe the only guy that might be able to match some of his strength is Ilia Topuria, given that they're pretty much like the same build, and both guys have fought at 155 before. But Yair was not ready for the strength difference. Easy trips off the body lock. And tripping a tall opponent with such long legs is much harder to do because they can get their footing a lot easier. And even when Volkanovski had his back as Yair stood up, Volk was dragging him to the ground trying to trip him out and actually got it. You could tell how tough it is to get a tall opponent to the ground like this off the fact that Volkanovski had to post to not fall all the way back. Now some people may have thought, why didn't Yair Rodriguez go for the triangle choke when he had a clear opening to do so? It was very easy to miss, but Volkanovski actually defended the incoming triangle. A lot of people missed this. So look at this position right here as Volkanovski standing above Yair Rodriguez, and notice that Yair is not against the fence, so he has more room to work with. He has Volkanovski's left arm trapped, and he's trying to trap Volkanovski's right arm as well by throwing his knee upward, and he wants to use that to hook around Volkanovski for the triangle. But he was onto it. He knew his left arm was trapped. He knew what Yair likes to do in this position. He's seen it before. He pulls his right arm out. Yair's going in for the triangle, and Volk quickly shoves his right hand, eliminating the triangle. This was not a punch, as you can see that Volk's hand never closed. It was an open palm the whole time, telling you he knew exactly what he was doing in this position to eliminate that triangle choke. Definitely evolved from the Brian Ortega fight. And preparing for Yair Rodriguez's triangle is just going to make it much harder for his other opponents in the future to get triangle chokes on this guy. But then the third round came, and Volk started to have some trouble with the striking. He was getting caught here and there, but not by big shots. And Volk's output was uncharacteristically low. And I think it was for a reason. He was looking for the big shot the entire time. He was trying to figure out what Yair was going to do as his offense, figure out some kind of rhythm. A lot of people like to say that Yair does not have a rhythm, but in fact he does, and Volk found it out. Volk figured it out. Every single time Yair blitzes forward, he ends the combination with his right kick. This happened over and over again, especially in this third round. Yair might throw his left hand or he'll throw his right hand, but regardless of which punch he starts it with, he's gonna end the combo with a right kick. And off of a blitz, you're usually banking on your opponent to back up away from it, leave him in that long range for the kick to land. As you can see here, every single time Yair blitzes forward, Volk is moving backwards far away, putting him in the range for the kicks, and Yair started to get conditioned by this movement until things changed up. And this goes right into the ending sequence where Volkanovski catches Yair, but before I talk about that, we do have to point out that defense to the head kicks. Man, it was scary. He was getting partially caught by head kicks because he wasn't defending a lot of them correctly. This is still showing to be a bit of an opening that Volk hasn't completely addressed yet. He's trying to roll with the kicks, but the fact that some of these are landing to the back of his head and across his face, the guard is not enough for the majority of these kicks. That was the biggest opening we saw in the fight from Volkanovski, and still shows to be true. The guy's not a perfect fighter, but he's very close to it. This is still showing to be a big weakness of his. Then we go to the ending sequence. Volkanovski throws an inside leg kick. This is off the fact that he already found a comfortable range to throw his strikes. Once he landed that first jab in the third round, he started to have more output. So by throwing the inside leg kick, what does everybody do to him? From Brian Ortega to Islam Makhachev, and for sure Yair Rodriguez studied as well. Throw that punch down the center. Volkanovski's legs are very short, so you can reach in there with your arms. Yair tried to do this, but Volk pulled away this time. The other times against the other fighters, he got caught clean to the face because he didn't pull away fast enough. This time he did, and Yair is quick, leaning back away from the straight, making that adjustment. And what does Yair Rodriguez do after throwing a punch? The majority of the time, he throws the right kick. So to lean away from the right straight, Volk is also going to switch stances backwards. This is the best way to get your footing. And what does Yair Rodriguez need you to do if he's blitzing you down with this kind of combo? He needs you to propel backwards. Volk didn't this time. He figured it out. He figured out the rhythm of Yair Rodriguez, something that nobody else has done. And Volk stays in that range right there where he stands and catches Yair Rodriguez throwing a kick way too close because he thought Volk was going to back up even more, and gets caught clean to the jaw, turning his head into the punch. Full impact, rocks Yair Rodriguez. This is the first time we saw Yair hurt to this extent, but he's tough. I mean, most guys would have been dropped by that kind of punch from Volkanovski, so Yair's still showing a great chin, but Volk puts his power on display again when he throws that right straight into a shifting, darting left, as it actually gets blocked. Yair blocks this left hand, but the power was so much, it goes through Yair's hand, hits it into his head, and rocks him again. And that was the beginning of the end. Yair Rodriguez is all out of it. He was just guarding up instinctively, got taken to the ground. This reminded me of what GSP did against Carlos Condit, throwing punches at them in close range to have them guard up and then go for the double leg, pick them up and slam them, and then simply finish the fight with ground and pound, hammered away until Herb Dean stopped the fight. Alexander Volkanovski is the most technical fighter in the world, in my opinion. A lot of people might still say John Jones, of course. John Jones is the best fighter because nobody can beat him, but Volkanovski is the most technical fighter. This is such a good performance from Alexander Volkanovski. It wasn't flawless, he got hit clean by some big shots, most notably a front kick up the center, and that right hand he walked right into while throwing his right hand. But this performance against Yair Rodriguez, in my honest opinion, puts him in the conversation to be greater than Jose Aldo. I think him and Jose Aldo are arguably neck and neck in featherweight greatness. I can hear the arguments for Aldo, I can hear the arguments for Volkanovski, but what I will say is, if Volk beats one more contender, if he beats Ilia Topuria, then he's the greatest featherweight of all time, 100%. I don't think there's a debate at that point. But that could be his next opponent, we don't know. So he has 3 potential matchups. He's got Topuria at 145. That is the next guy in line for a title shot. But he is young, so maybe they want Ilia to fight one more guy before he gets that crack. Then there's Aljamain Sterling if he beats Sean O'Malley. Aljamain could rise up from 135 to fight Volkanovski at 145. That's another potential matchup for Volk. And then of course there's the Islam rematch. Now that we know that Charles Oliveira says that he's not ready to fight Islam in October, that leaves an open spot for Volkanovski if Dustin or Justin doesn't get the shot or doesn't want to fight in October that soon. Volk's got some really good options right here. And in my opinion, I don't know, man. It's going to be really tough to beat this guy. So I hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown. And if you did, make sure to give this a thumbs up. If you enjoyed my content, make sure to subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video, coming very soon.